Welcome to this session on Aquadata. Aquadata is, you may know, is the work package one of the Aquatic Food Initiative. It's very focusing on trying to fill the data gaps and data needs of in the aquatic food system space, and it's very much trying to also doing in participation with stakeholders and really focusing on the localization of the demand. So it's really joining the demand of data with what we are able to produce. So that's very important in our work package. But why we are here today? It's very much about presenting what we have done until now. I think we have done a great work, but I also believe, we are not very good in communicating it and, telling others where we are, if we are moving in the right direction, getting, feedback and comments and recommendation from WorkFish colleagues and others is for us very, very important. And so socializing, what we have done until now, and also introducing our colleagues in the team is for us, important this moment. And we want really to talk about our research, what we have done until now, in these few months I don't know why this, in these few months of research. And to start with, we prepare a video of all the team members, because I think it's important to show that behind whatever we have done is not just me and the other speakers of today, but there is a team that is growing and growing and is very much focusing, helping the organization to be demand-driven and to support showcasing the performance of our innovations or our policy change and our impacts. Please, you can play the video, and my colleagues can introduce themselves.
I'm Alex Tilley, a senior scientist and co-lead of the Aquadata work package, and my work focuses on identifying and filling data gaps from small-scale fisheries.
Hi, my name is Marleen Schutter, and I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at WorldFish and the University of Washington. And I bring to this work package a policy lens, so I'm interested in what are the data needs for policy change, and also how can data be used in wider policy discussions.
Hi, I'm Lorenzo Longobardi. I'm working as a data scientist for WorldFish. My role in Aquadata is to develop and support new data tools in order to facilitate the process of filling data gaps and generate new data.
Hi, my name is Su Jie. I'm a project researcher at the Institute for Future Initiatives, the University of Tokyo. I work for the WorldFish projects, trying to understand how climate change has affected inland aquaculture and what are the adaptation measures and what are the difficulties and the barriers for the farmers to adapt to the climate change.
Hi, my name is Denise Lozano. I am a consultant working with the MEL and Impact Assessment team since 2021. For the Aquadata team, my work focuses on helping identifying data gaps and generating new data in aquatic food systems through the design and conduction of baseline and impact assessment studies in multiple countries.
Hi, I'm Rodolfo Dan, scientist for the Aquadata group, and my work involves designing mixed research methods to collect evidence of WorldFish contribution to development outcomes and to the SDGs.
I am Cristiano Rossignoli. I'm the manual research lead and the lead of the Aquadata work package of the Aquatic Foods Initiative. I'm working and interested on filling data gaps and data needs to support evidence-based decision and to inform policy and decision makers in the space of aquatic food systems.
Hi, my name is Ada Ghazali, the research data management specialist. I have been working closely with the Aquadata team. My research expertise include research data management, data creations, and mobile data collection design. So I've been involved in multiple projects deploying the data collections in Cobalt Toolbox and Service CTO. I've also designed the WorldFish data performance dashboard that portrays the utilizations and the user activities in downloading our published dataset.
Hi, I'm Gyo Shujiao. I'm the JS scientist for Aquadata team of Aquatic Food Initiative. My work focused on using GIS as a spatial planning tool to support the evidence-based decision-making and policy development in the area of aquatic food system research.
I'm Timothy Manyise. I'm the postdoc fellow for the Aquadata team of Aquatic Foods Initiative. My work focuses on impact assessment of aquatic foods interventions, and I also work on generating and synthesizing benchmarking data on small-scale aquaculture systems, and this will inform policy and investment decisions that seeks to support the sustainable development of aquaculture systems.
I'm Baban Bayan. I'm the data analyst for the Aquadata team of Aquatic Food Initiatives. My work focuses on investigating the data gaps and data needs related to aquatic food systems in India.
So I'm very, very proud of the team, really. It's a wonderful team. It's a great network of scientists, researchers, data analysts, very much focusing on trying to, really generating and filling the data gaps and helping to meet the data needs in order to transform the aquatic food systems. This is really our mission. And we are in that space, we are doing a lot of things. And today is really to show what we are doing. It's a compilation of our work, right? But let me briefly start from why Aquadata, right? So there are a bunch of issues really in relation to data in the aquatic food system space. There is a lack of data, so it's difficult to have the data to take an informed decision. So most of the actors and policymakers take suboptimal decision because they don't have access to the right data. If data are there, sometimes the quality of the data is an issue. Today we have a wonderful day of workshop with our colleagues from Bangladesh and India, and that was one of the main work, quality of the data. Data, even if data are available sometimes, they are sparse, right? They are scattered in different portals, so it's very difficult to get access to it. So another problem is the access to the data. And also they are heterogeneous, so they are in different formats. They don't speak each other. This is another point. This is a very big problem also for us as an organization. We have a lot of data, but sometimes the data are collected in very different formats. It's not easy to get sense of the data because of the differences between the way they have been collected. And also, and this is very, very important, data are complex. Most of the people that have to take decisions, they don't have nor the time nor the capacity to access to very large data set. There is needs of make interpretation of it, analyzing, and make it digestible to take informed decision. So all these problems are very much affecting the performance of aquatic food systems. And our capacity also to showcase the value of aquatic food systems in the discussion in the sphere of development, right, and achieving impact for a change in our society. How Aquadata is organized? It's organized basically very simply around three research pathway. The first is, again, I think you heard about, most of the colleagues speaks about data gaps in aquatic food systems. So we want to understand what really those data gaps are, because we spoke with many stakeholders, but we have understood that there is a diversity of interpretation of what the data gaps is. And also, there is a localization of a different localization of what the data gaps is. And depending on the stakeholder, also there is a different needs of data. They are not all the same. And we are trying to map and understand all different gaps and understand how to fill it. We try to synthesize, existing data and produce new data to support, evidence-based decision and investments. So then we try to, produce new data. So we have a lot of methodology consistently applied to different case study in order to produce a coherent amount of data that can support decision makers and investments. Finally, we want to be sure that the data are not only generated but used. I think Marlene, in the introduction, she said she was very interested in understanding, and she's working on understanding how we can use data to really develop policy and take decisions that can change, because it's not just enough producing the data, but we want that the data are going to be to reach the right people that can take the right decision, right? Or at least can be informed to take decisions. So this is the way we organize our research. And also, I want to show you what is our achievement in 2022. So what we have produced as a team, we have produced around 50 knowledge products, about 10 peer-reviewed articles last year. We have trained 478 people. Around in every 3 participants is a woman. We have implemented 130 partnerships in 8 countries in 4 regions. We have, I think, developed a research collaboration among 25 with other 25 researchers from 60 countries. We have developed 16 new innovations. 6 of them are already in use in 3 countries, and we have worked on 4 policy changes. Without going in details, we have done this just leveraging our work on data. Okay, that's not a small thing, and is showing the power of data in addressing many issues around the sphere of aquatic food system transformation. I hand over to Alex for the moment. I'll be back. No worries.
Thanks, Cristiano. So I'm going to dive a little bit into the details, both about what I am involved in and that of a couple of colleagues. And then I'm going to hand on to Rodo, who's going to do the same. So for myself, I work across all 3 of those pathways. And it might help to kind of define this in a way. So you may or may not have heard of the Aquadata portal before you came to this talk. Aquadata portal is really the end product in a way of this work package, and how we imagine a system that can cater for data in aquatic food systems, where it might be the go-to place to find data where you thought there was a gap, or even to identify where other gaps might be. And it's going to be sort of impact focused. So I kind of designed this slide to sort of show how things might contribute to that inevitable system. So I work in the bottom right, you'll see the map of Timor-Leste. Obviously, all of you will have known clearly that was Timor. And the colored sort of heat map around it are vessel tracks from small-scale fisheries. So one of the projects I work on is called Pescas, and it's a digital monitoring system for the small-scale fisheries of Timor, which has been adopted and now is paid for by the government of Timor. So that's been a nice impact over the last couple of years. And that's really one example of how we can use new technologies that are getting smaller and cheaper and easier to install to uncover data that we thought originally wasn't really possible to obtain. So from one-man canoes or one-woman canoes, you can put a GPS tracker on and get data from that. Likewise, in small-scale fisheries, you may have heard of the Illuminating Hidden Harvest project, which was using case studies in about 58 countries. I contributed to that with some members from Bangladesh, and have done a bit of work in understanding the nutritional density of catches from small-scale fisheries. So that will then again end up in this portal that was where those data were previously unavailable. The other thing about what Cristiano was saying about data are heterogeneous in that they're very different the way they're put in. And sometimes, for example, in Aquadata, what you call harvest, in fisheries you call catch, and more or less they're similar concepts in that that's the fish that will become food that you're harvesting from a system. And yet those 2 terms don't compute well in a semantic sense. So if we wanted to compare, let's say, production from aquaculture and fishery systems, first you have to get those data talking together and say, well, we want to compare catch with harvest. It's perhaps a silly example, but so ontologies and vocabularies are really, really important in data systems. And so a lot of the work going into this is unifying or coordinating the language that is used in data sets.
for variables and things like that. And that means that data sets can then talk to one another, and meta-analyses across countries and regions and globally can then take place a lot more easily. And FishBase and SeaLifeBase are online databases, some of the most cited, in scientific history, at least in our field. And so I've been working for the last few years as the World Fish representative on the FishBase consortium, management consortium. And also I'm lucky enough to kind of work to incorporate this massive body of knowledge into Aquadata as well. So one thing that we've done so far is done an analysis of what what data are there already and what gaps exist in the FishBase and SeaLifeBase databases online. And there are, in the kind of innovative and kind of novel ways, we're developing a way of kind of synthesizing that information together and thinking, okay, what are the priorities and where we tackle first? Like there's this huge hole in what we understand about a particular thing, and then we can kind of mobilize resources around that. And I've already said a bit about this one, so I won't go into this. This is really showing Pescas and a specific case for Timor. And then onto the work of my colleague Sadia, who you saw in the video, and most of you will know already. Sadia is also working a lot on the ontology side of things, so terminology and also uploading and maintaining information in the World Fish Dataverse, and has also done this great effort in actually consolidating the knowledge that we already have in Dataverse, because if anyone's tried to use it, often you need to know what you want before you get in there, or else you just kind of get lost in data. So understanding where we have data from, what that data is all about, and how much and how it might be accessed and pulled into new systems is a core component of what Sadia is working on. Lorenzo, who you saw standing over a beautiful backdrop of which would have been Naples in Italy, he's based in Italy. He's our data science guru, and he's been working on ways that we can take some of the manual labor out of this number crunching or the data by using AI. So many of you will have heard of ChatGPT and these sort of tools, and it's a way of kind of leveraging AI to take a lot of the grunt work out of creating data stories of change. So that Aquadata portal that we're talking about, there's still quite a lot of work in getting information in there, and if we can leverage AI to do that, it'll save a great deal of time and effort, and also to make those data more readily available for decision making. So his role is really both for information and data that exists within the CG already. He's kind of developing tools to identify key words and variables and to pull into the Aquadata portal, but also to kind of map those variables that I was saying in terms of an ontology sense. So I will pass on to Rodo at this point, who will tell you a bit about his role and his gap analysis.
Thanks and good afternoon, everyone. This next study focused very specifically on the first pathway that Cristiano was showing. And the whole goal of this is to identify what are the data gaps at country level. So this is an ongoing project that we just kickstarted. We have a preliminary results from the case study in India. And the idea is to conduct similar studies in the other countries. So the whole premise is the first thing that we need to understand is what does people need? What are our key stakeholders across the industry, across the sector, are asking in order to do their job? So one of the key things that we did is to conduct expert interviews to be able to identify those type of data gaps that from their perspective is missing to conduct their work. And one of the things that we try to do is to capture as broad audience as possible. So we interview persons from the academic sector, private sector, government officials, and we try to also collect from the local communities to understand
what are the information that they are missing. The whole point of understanding this is in order to be able to prioritize what is the information, the next information that we need to try to collect and focus and input into this Aquadata portal that Alex was mentioning. So at the end, all this connects in a way to provide this overall idea and this supporting system for policymakers to make evidence-based decisions. And so let me show you one of the preliminary results. This is still work in progress. This is based on the case study of India. So on the far right side, you will see the different stakeholders. And we basically coded how does this connect not only with the different dimensions and pathways of the Aquadata system, but also how does this connect to the goals of WorldFish. In the future, we'll be able to connect also this with the SDGs. And with this connection, we will be able to identify interlinkages between the different data gaps mentioned by the different stakeholders. So one interesting fact about this is, while this is still work in progress, and we already start working on different projects across the different team members that was presented early on in the introduction. And the good thing is many of the key missing data reported by stakeholders is already being addressed in a manner by the different projects that we have. So for instance, the project of PESCAS is actually contributing to different needs mentioned by the different stakeholders. There are other projects that has been that we are working on with the University of Tokyo and with IGS and with different case studies that we have been running that actually address very specific needs. There are other things that are being asked by the different stakeholders that is something that we need to consider how we can satisfy that need. For instance, there's a very specific call to identify market prices and fish stock in their local communities. So that is something that is not currently in place, but has been a constant highlights across the different stakeholders that we identify.
So as you see, we are working very much on our business intelligence in terms of data gaps. Right? We try to understand, and we try to understand how to fill exactly data gaps with the current work that we are doing. Right. Another way to work on data gaps and data needs is the characterization of aquatic food systems. So one of the main issues, since I'm working in WorldFish, I'm the Melia research lead, is everybody's saying, Cristiano, can we have more evidence? Can we have more impact assessment? Can we have more showcasing more our contribution to the transformation on aquatic foods? Can we tell us? Can you help us to tell what's the performance of the different innovation that we are developing? Yes, sure. I mean, I'm very happy to do it. But, to do it in a robust way, we have to have a baseline, we have to have different point of observation, most of the time an end line. It requires a lot of work. And with my friend and colleague, Professor Benzi, we were discussing about why we don't look about benchmarking. And so have a recurrent way of characterizing the aquatic food system where we can showcasing the performance in terms of sustainability. So sort of looking at how sustainable is a kind of systems. So what we start to do is exactly developing a methodology with different partners and, identifying a sort of sustainability performance of the aquatic food systems in different countries and start to measure it, producing data set, etc., to consolidate a methodology that can be applied routinely in our country. So we have a sort of continuous in not like every year, but every probably 2 or 3 years, a continuous and recurrent baselines on which I can compare the trajectory in terms of sustainability performance of the different aquatic food systems and understand how our innovation are dealing and relating to this. It's pretty important because we have a theory chain, we have a system thinking approach, and we can understand. So we are constructing in a very structured way our capacity of measuring the sustainability performance of aquatic food system and innovation, but also starting because we are using consistently the same methodology that is completely digital and supported by digital solution and digital. I think also Laura presents something very similar to this. But it's a sort of having continuous benchmark, right, on which we are, and we can compare the different performance only, not only within the same system, but also within different countries, and we can understand how is our impact in different countries based on this continuous benchmarking, right? But how this basically tool looks like, is a compilation. I mean, a lot of research, most of this research that you have seen in the presentation are working on it. We have implemented already in Bangladesh. We have done a very initial one in India. We have done in Nigeria, and we are progressing. We have done in Myanmar, and we are progressing to do that. And we are generating this data, and the data are available, and we are writing stories on it. Okay, but is an integration of the work of different sciences. For instance, one of the main important aspects, our colleague Teo Shujao is providing these slides. There is a lot of work that WorldFish has done in recent years, since 2008, about developing a way of using GIS to assess the potential of or the suitability area for aquaculture, right? Aquaculture systems. So we are expanding this, and we are implementing this kind of process in different areas. So be consistent, generating data in a very consistent way help us really to have different point of observation and have a sort of benchmark of how things are working, right? So this idea of using GIS, and GIS is embedded exactly in the characterization, is something that we are exploring. And particularly a recent experience in Timor-Leste, where GIS work inform the development of the strategy for Timor-Leste national aquaculture development. We have also our colleagues from Tokyo University. You may remember initially Gia that spoke about this. So she's very much trying to also work with this characterization of the aquatic food systems, including the climate change lens. So climate change, as you know, I mean, is under the eyes of everyone, is affecting very much aquatic food systems, in particular aquaculture, and they are, especially smallholders, are very vulnerable to climate change. So we are exploring very much about the capacity of mapping. Sorry, we are exploring the coping system used to cope with climate change, and so what is an adaptation measures are there, and so it's also the mitigation strategy. And we are using all this literature that is coming out to be included in the characterization of the aquatic food system. So the tool that we are using is becoming more sensible to the different impacts that we want to showcase. Finally, this is the case we have done recently in Nigeria, where please Timothy, correct me, it's 4 states, right? We have implemented the survey in 4 states. And we have identifying the prevalence and performance of small-scale farming systems. We identifying their contribution to livelihoods and food security, and also we have starting to use this case study to understand the willingness to adopt of our technology. So the characterization also helps us to understand how much farmers are interested in adopting our technology that we have developed. In particular, in this case, was for genetically improved farmer tilapia. And so this is to tell that this kind of information can also be used for us to, as a scaling information, to understand how we can move forward our innovation. Finally, I want to come back to the Aquadata portal. So the Aquadata portal is nothing else that trying to compile in a simple manner very complex information that and they can basically in a way summarize impact or story of change, right? Where basically we try to one of the main issue for us is through also this consultation in data gaps and data needs is that most of the people find very difficult to access to very complex information and data sets, right? So what we are trying to do is to use, for instance, what we produce as an organization in terms of scientific knowledge, etc., in something that is much more simple and digestible, in something that is a simple story of change that can inform about main achievement in a certain area. And we organize this data portal around main the worldfish impacts areas. So in terms of food security, in terms of nutrition, in terms of poverty reduction, and such. And we have we start compiling, these stories into the portal. We have now, I think, a couple of days of workshop on how to roll out and scale up these into different countries. The idea behind it is definitely, to make available, because the most difficult part about data is the discoverability of the data. So data sometimes are there, but are difficult to be used because they're complicated. So these try to exactly to help to move in that direction. So to simplify the information and to make it in knowledge that can help to take decision. Yeah, that's it for now. Do you want to add anything, Alex, Rodolfo, anybody else? Yeah, thank you. So if there is any question, we are happy to respond.
Mine's a very general question / comment, because there are many people throughout the world looking to see how they can interrogate information that's available. So it's just a question of, how do we see ourselves in that landscape, and are we trying to reinvent wheels that other people have already got, and vice versa?
You mean for in relation to the portal?
Yes, yeah. I think let's do it that way first, yeah.
I think because it takes time to understand what we have done with it, but there are many repositories of data. I mean, there are really many repositories of data in relation to agriculture, aquaculture, fisheries, and whatever. But most of these repositories, I think Alex mentioned when he spoke about Dataverse, our repository for the data, are there, but it's very difficult to access to the data that you really need. It's difficult to make sense of this data. So it needs people that have really clear in mind what they want to, what they really look for, right? And also are a certain capacity of analyzing this data. What we are trying with the Aquadata, what we are trying to do with the Aquadata portal is, now I'm calling Aquadata portal, but we don't really have a clear name yet. But what we are trying to do is to generate simple stories or simple policy recommendation, let's make it like this. I would say simple story of change, where we basically showcase the result that are derived from a data set or from multiple data sets. At this moment, for instance, we are using scientific papers that are published already. Every year we publish a paper. Can we transform a paper in something that is easy digestible, for instance, for somebody that is not a scientist? Right? And can we compile a simple message behind it? And that means, for instance, I don't know, in the case of a paper, recent paper that we have done in Bangladesh about consultation of stakeholders, So where we identify the value of carp aquaculture in Bangladesh and showcasing that how many people benefit of it, how many farmers are involved with, if I am a if I'm a policymaker, I don't really have time nor to read the paper, nor to access the data set, nor to whatever. Okay? But if I have a very good evidence and I transform in simple messages, okay, that can be useful and can be easily scanned to take a simple decision. Or at least if you have the right economy of scale, if you get what I'm saying, if you have a lot of point of observation, then it can be a little bit better than just no information, right? So if you have a lot of point of observation in the data portal, then it's becoming a little bit more useful, right? It depends on our capacity of populating it in a way. I don't know if you answered to you. I don't think there is anything like this until now.
So just to sort of paraphrase your question, John, I think you're asking why specifically we as World Fish are in position to do this. And I think we're in a very good position because when these sort of communities begin, or these data sets or these repositories, people only use them if they're credible. And I think we are genuinely in a position of credibility academically, especially in aquatic food systems. And I think we also have the ability to populate a database like this from our own work initially to get the ball rolling. Because I think that's often the way as well, is like, how do you incentivize people to give data or to upload to a system like this? And often, unless your friends are using it too, you're not going to join it readily or kind of put any time or effort into it. So I think those two are the main reasons for me. It's like credibility, and also we have a good backlog of data to begin with.
Yeah, so in part you've answered my questions, and it's kind of semi what I would have expected. But my question was really because I was very peripherally exposed to another set of things, mainly it was genetics and molecular biology. So they'd huge data sets with very defined, the problem was they were still defining their ontologies and everything else to be better able to define the questions. And so what I'm interpreting your answer to be is that nobody else is in this space to attempt to address the questions that we're asking, is what I'm interpreting your comment to be. And that makes it perfectly valid. And it's also saying that it doesn't look like anybody else is around in the space necessarily developing the tools to address those particular sets of questions.
Hey, Cristiano, thank you. Very interesting presentation. Really enjoyed the video as well. So kind of similar to what John asked, my question is, are we harvesting data from any other existing data platform or do we plan to integrate this with another data set that's out there already? I'm sure even if the data is not overlapping, there will be finding other data that exists. So that's one. I'll ask the second question.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, the idea is this Aquadata portal will sooner or later collect and try to pull together all different data sources, not only ours. But we will get there by time, in the sense that we need before something that is working, at least with our things, and we are able to test it. But for instance, we are having this workshop now today and tomorrow with the India team and Bangladesh team, exactly to start thinking on how we can integrate it, data set and data sources from those countries, right? Yeah.
The purpose is to have stories of change. Stories of change, to me, I envision like a narrative, but really I think what in this case it would mean is evidence to say, okay, this innovation has created this impact in a quantifiable way. If that is the case, then perhaps to serve the purpose of the portal, it might be better to use the term evidence instead of saying stories of change. So it is evidence for policy action. So it's a direct resonance with the purpose of the platform.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. You will forgive us. I mean, we didn't have the time to present the portal more in details, but there is a narrative behind, and it's because just presenting the data itself it will be difficult to make interpretation of it. So you need some background information, exactly explaining, for instance, a little bit of a methodology, the way it has been collected, make a reference of why this has been collected. There is a little bit of story behind it, okay? It's not, I would say, the intent is not to be, I don't think we didn't think as a communication piece, but, you know, it can be used in that way too, of course, but it requires a different kind of quality check, I would say. Yeah. But this, at the moment, we are very focused on making stories from validated information. So public peer review papers, you know, data set that we are sure that are of a certain quality, because it's very crucial, the credibility behind. If we are not showcasing information that are of a certain quality, we have the risk that this will not be taken seriously. And then, you know, probably our role also in managing this platform will not be anymore there, right? Because, you know, everybody then can generate his own portal without, you know, any kind of quality insurance, you know, in a way.
Is that working? Yeah. So this is again a much more general question, and it's maybe not just to yourself, Cristiano, it's to the whole group in terms of if I can refer to Rodolfo's squid diagram, if you'd forgive me for using the word, but you'd interrogated a number of potential users, and there's a range of users we've got. So to what extent is there a challenge in, well, at least firstly, prioritizing which of the users we're attempting to assist? So I'd just be interested to know the extent to which people are pretty clear about what the users are and in which order we might be dealing with them. Or is it a bit more ad hoc, dependent in part on the quality of the data sets we've actually got, so we can actually address some things?
I think it's a little bit, John, it's a very good question, actually, but it's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing in the sense that, you know, we have to start from a point, and it's not easy to take a decision to, you know, from where we want to start. And at the moment, I think, at least also in the discussion we are having today, we believe that we should start with the good data, as good as possible at the beginning. And I think I want to refer also to what Mohan is saying here, because it's very much also related to what you're mentioning. I think there is definitely the interest of helping our counterparts to make sense of their own data. And this requires, of course, a lot of time and investment, because, you know, if you're speaking about data produced about aquaculture and fisheries in India, I mean, can you believe how many data sets we are referring to? It's a lot. What we start to do is what Rado was showing. You know, we are start asking them what you really need, what are the information that you would like to see. Then, of course, there is another bunch of research that we didn't present it today, but for instance, that Alex is working with the Fishbase to look exactly at, you know, a sort of all the data that are available, and we know about certain species, certain things, and we try to also look in the literature. So we compare about data that have been published or available, and we know they're available, about the gaps that we identify, and we try to make sense of it. Then if we know that the data are available, then we can start helping them in terms of you know, institutional capacity building, definitely, also helping them to look in the data set and crunching and making story out of it. But this, I think, it will come a little bit later on. in the sense that if we don't build a product, or if we are not able to produce data of a certain quality ourselves, what is the credibility we have to go to somebody else and tell you should have quality data, right? We have to have a clear, process and being able to make this data available for others in a discoverable way, et cetera, John. And then I think at the same time, we can also help others to do it. I don't know if it makes sense, John, what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Just in terms of the national partners, it is the drive is definitely to help them to make sense of their data, but also to see the value of those data in implementations in other geographies, or likewise, if they're looking for a solution to a particular problem or trying to impact in a certain area, learning from other countries and other is a real opportunity when you start to look at data at this scale. And I think that's the exciting thing. It's being able to see, do we see the same patterns across, global, regional, localized scales when we start to pull data out across different systems?
Yeah, and then it's definitely depending on the kind of investment we are available. At the moment, we are just relying on we are very happy to have this data, this money from the initiative. But this kind of job also require a lot of investment, right? I mean, just the first development of the data portal cost us a lot. It's definitely a trade-off at the end of the day. We have to start from something, and again, we believe that if we have a product that or a system that is looking at gaps, trying to fill in through impact studies, benchmarking, etc., and communicating about it, so making available to others, I think is a good start, but should be a certain quality. That's I'm very convinced about it. Yeah. Any other question? Anybody else? No. Can go, John.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to come back to that point I made before about just the issues of using the data that you've got so you can illustrate the circumstance well, so that you can then leverage more investment in all of those things. And is that beginning to clarify in terms of which directions we need to go and where we are potentially getting investment, or is that still something which is a challenge for the group? And then a related question, and a fairly political one, I guess, in one sense, is the extent to which we may be being asked to integrate with CG on other processes, or whether we are being potentially pointed at as an example to follow. Just interested to know what that landscape looks like, because that, of course, can influence the success of this particular project and may influence the smart directions in which to go, either to be integrated or to nip round the side.
Yeah. How can put it, John?
If it's too political, you can let it
go. No, I mean, I feel that, again, it's, I think we are moving into the right direction to showcasing our results. I think the steps of this characterization, benchmarking, etc., is really helping us in moving in that direction. And investing in data, it's probably, and in data and in evidence is probably the right thing to do. It requires a little bit of more coordination, and in the effort we are investing in research and the way, because there is a temporal disalignment, between misalignment between what is being implemented and the data is generated and the capacity to measure the performance. So the more coherent we are in that sense, and the better we can showcase our performance and be relevant in the system. Yeah, that's it. Very political and we have been, John? Welcome. Thank you. right. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Aman, you want to ask your question?
Yes, can you hear me, Cristiano?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you so much, Cristiano, Alex, Rodo, and other colleagues. A very informative presentation. I have a couple of questions, Cristiano. The first is about the usability and the utilization of the platform. I think you mentioned, as well as Alex mentioned, about this thing that we know that we have a rich data set or a rich data platform. But what are the plans, or how do you envision that, how you make sure that the platform, once we have fully functional and active platform, that the intended users or the end users, they are using it the way we intend them to use? Maybe a comment from your side. And the second thing is about, as Alex mentioned, that we are going to standardize, or we are going to compare the data which we have across countries or regions. But at the same time, we know that for instance, in Bangladesh, which is a way ahead of other countries in terms of aquaculture, so the context is different, one thing, or maybe the demand of the policymaker or the government is different. So how do you make sure that we are like integrating all these parameters and factors once we have something like characterization study, what you mentioned, or comparison across countries, regions, or maybe within a country as well? Thank you.
You're welcome, Aman. Thanks for the questions. You're very good. I think in terms of, I mean, the sustainability of the platform and the way that's, people are going to use it or not. I mean, we are really much working now with team in countries to understand exactly, start mapping the stakeholders, identifying possible users, have a stakeholder consultation, understand what the data are there. I mean, we are exactly doing this process. So it's called like it's really about the project or on scaling these things up, right? So it's very much about hard work and analysis and brain power, brainstorming and investment of time and resources. So it takes time, and definitely it's a long process. It's not something that I believe is going to happen because of some lucky event. There is a risk of failing, of course, and but it's also a learning process. So we will move forward in in a sort of reiterative way to refine our idea about the Aquadata portal and see how these things is going to happen. However, again, Aquadata work package is not just the Aquadata portal. As you can see, there is a lot about data gaps and data needs, analysis, identification, investigation of the performance of our innovation in the field, generation of new data. So all this is part of an overall story. So we are not just focused on this product. This is, let's say, is an end line thing, but it's not focusing only on that. But the other element, I think, was about the comparability. So when we say comparability, we don't want to say what is best, but we want to understand if we are using the same consistency in the way we are investigating systems. We can generate a sort of index of performance of that specific system itself. So a sort of sustainability score in a way. But anybody who works around sustainability understands that you cannot say this is more sustainable than this. It's very hard when we are speaking about very complex system. We can say within that specific system what is probably the best trade-off of this specific thing. So the comparability is about, probably among countries, because they are very different system, very different policy framework, et cetera, is about understanding of a certain trajectory and probably start thinking, okay, maybe what I can learn from here that I can compare with this one and I can influence it. But if we have very different way of investigating this, then the comparison or the learning is becoming even more complicated. And that's why I was referring on comparing, different aquatic food systems from different countries. Not in terms of, I want to say that aquaculture in Myanmar is less, sorry, I'm just making an example, is less sustainable than aquaculture in Bangladesh. That would be silly to say. Or even if I say it, it's remaining what it is, right? So it's always a matter of very complex system that they have to be evaluated in terms of trade-offs. And sustainability, in the way we are framing, it's a very complex matter because it's about money, it's about food, it's about inclusion, it's about climate change, it's about environment, biodiversity. So it's it can be something extremely complicated to measure. Okay. I hope I respond to your question, Aman.
Yes, thank you, Cristiano.
The short answer, there are probably many, but I think we should make sense of something that we can use as in a simple manner, because most of the way sustainability is measured is, for instance, maybe I would say something a little bit extreme, but the SDGs, in a way, they're measuring the performance of a certain, let's say they are very much a country level, They're measuring the performance of this specific country in terms of all these dimensions, right? And so we know a country is performing in terms of poverty, in terms of gender inclusion, and the different SDGs they are there. There are, I think, I don't know how many indicators, 200, under 68 indicators, something like that, right? This is a super complicated way of measuring, the performance of a system. Okay, so probably what we should do is much more simple, because what we need at this moment is to get an information of a trajectory of how things are. Then can be more and more elaborated, I feel. But what we need is a simple way to measure things. I don't have an answer of how these things looks like, but what we are doing is to start having a network of experts about how to measure sustainability and discussing about it and try to see, okay, is possible come out with an idea of an aqua index, for instance. So a sustainability measurement or footprint of aquatic food systems, right? Which again, it should not be an academic exercise, because again, it's going to be too complicated and too difficult, too costly, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's again a matter of trade-off. Sorry, I don't have a better answer than this. I know it's not super exciting, but yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, and yeah, been a great pleasure.